Hi, my name's Phil. I like to talk about politics, and in this video I'd like to take stock of what Brexit has now proven to be, reflect on the previous and still current but to a much lesser extent comments from Brexit supporters about Remainers or rejoiners now as we are attacking their country and Brexiteers being Patriots. Take a little look at what Brexit has done and is doing to the UK and just wonder who really are the Patriots this time. But first, if you'd like to be notified of daily news and politics, please subscribe to the channel and click the bell notification icon. So this was prompted really by a comment from James O'Brien. Some people will know him as a very prominent anti-Brexit commentator. And he said, if you really think that all ex-Remainers, is what he's calling them, because not necessarily all ex-Remainers are rejoiners, so ex-Remainers, if you really think that all ex-Remainers want any business to close or jobs to be lost due to Brexit, you're presuming everyone is as mean-spirited and silly as you are. This sort of projection is one of the hardest things to diffuse because it involves willful self-deception. Now, here's the thing. You get a lot of Brexit supporters saying that Remainers or rejoiners or just ex-Remainers now are always putting their country down. I get it here. Why do you hate your country? Why are you always talking it down? I wasn't, and I don't. I was desperately trying to help it. It was the Brexit supporters who were tearing it down, and indeed have torn it down. And it's easy to demonstrate now that Brexit is a reality. If people voted for Brexit in 2016, they could have been naive. They believed that a bunch of politicians, some of whom were known to be deeply dishonest, would deliver some Brexit golden age for the UK, despite the fact that every expert on trade and international diplomacy said otherwise. There were some who just thought that their lives were so bad right now, they didn't necessarily believe that Brexit would make it better, but they did believe that it couldn't make it worse, and maybe there was a chance of making it better. You know, if people supported Brexit over the last few years, they could have just been hopelessly misinformed. But Brexit is here now. The damage that we tried to warn about is real and it's getting worse. What am I doing? What are they doing? I am warning about the problems. I'm trying to explain the problems that businesses already face, and there's a doozy coming tomorrow. I'm warning about the problems that are about to get worse and the ones that are further down the line. I'm hoping against hope that it leads to wider understanding and more pressure on the government to do something. What are the Brexit supporters doing? They're trying to say that everything is fine. Which attitude is more helpful to the UK? Let's put it in an easy medical context. Some blood tests come back. A couple of doctors review them. The patient sadly has cancer. The first doctor wants to bring the patient in and explain the diagnosis with ideas for treatment and support. The second doctor wants to tell them that everything's fine and that the pain they're experiencing will sort itself out. Which doctor is acting in the best interests of the patient? Which one cares more about them? Brexiteers want to pretend that the problem doesn't exist because it makes them look silly. But the problem does exist and will not go away without remedial action. So denying the problem continues the problem. Maybe even worsens it, but at the very least continues it. The problem is harmful to the UK, and so the attitude is also harmful to the UK. Therefore, Brexit supporters are harmful to the UK. That is a perfectly simple mathematical proof. Can't argue with maths. And it's so what does help with the problem? So acknowledging what the problems are always is the first step. Accepting the reality of the situation and working on solutions. And there have been solutions suggested. You know, problem number one. Lots of our goods are facing severe delays and a lot of paperwork in order to export to the EU. Some goods can't be sold at all at the moment because DEFRA, which is the government department related to food production amongst other things, haven't sorted out their health certification yet. Solution. Well, we need systems in place in order to reduce these delays and in order to allow the goods that currently can't be sold in the EU at all, you know, like live shellfish, for example, some cheeses are having problems. You know, those systems are available right now and they can't just appear overnight. It's not just about saying to Boris Johnson, oh, these systems aren't in place. And he goes, oh, sorry, I didn't realise. Yeah, they're in place now. No, it's going to take time. businesses are going to fail in the time it takes to put them in place. So there's an obvious solution, and that is you agree to an implementation period. Basically, another thing that's the same as the transition period, call it an implementation period. That is quite usual with trade deals. Government aren't interested. Okay then, let's hear some of their solutions. Oh, what's that? There aren't any? Okay, so how about we go to the only solution that actually exists? Second problem, even when our systems are implemented, we're still going to experience significant delays and less capacity to access the freight transport needed. Solution, negotiate closer trading ties. Look at this chart. This is Europe. This is Europe. Everything. It shows the trading interrelationships between European countries and bits of European countries. Not just the EU. You know, the EU is all in the middle of this all, but there's other ones around as well. We are literally the only European country that is completely outside every single trade area on the continent. In fact, not just country, we're the only European entity, block of land. It's absolutely ridiculous and completely unnecessary. We used to be at the heart of all of that. We used to be driving all of that, or one of the three driving it. And now we've left everything. Solution is obvious. You negotiate closer ties. We bring ourselves into at least one of those loops. Problem number 3. We have no deal at all to speak of for services, which is the vast majority of our economy. The City of London has been hemorrhaging business to the EU centres, not just before Brexit, not just ahead of Brexit, since Brexit. In the first few days, €6 billion worth just went across the channel. That was it, gone. And it's been, continuing. The solution is, of course, to negotiate terms. Yes, it'll mean regulatory alignment. Of course it will, agreeing a set standard of standards. But almost nobody really cares about that. And when people say they do, you ask them, okay, which relevant regulation negatively impacted your life? They're strangely silent at that point. Or they talk about bendy bananas as if they ever went away or as if they'd be important if they did. And it really is this simple. The country is suffering right now. That's obvious. The government may try and hide the economic damage on a graph behind COVID, because COVID at the moment is causing much more serious economic damage. Brexit will cause more damage over time, but you can hide things when it happens over time. But when jobs are lost because someone's company can't trade as much as it did before, or at all, you can't hide that. When they're told they've lost the jobs because, that Cheshire Cheese company, for example, has had to just wave goodbye to £250,000 worth of trade with the EU. The reason in their case being that they have to issue a health certificate with each order, which costs £180. Well, if they're not selling £250,000 within one go. As they say, if they get an order for £30,000 worth of cheese, they're not going to pay for a £180 health certificate to go with it. They're not making money that way. So that's just gone. So there'll be companies that just have to face up to the fact they don't need as much staff. Those staff will know why they've lost their jobs. And anyone who doesn't want to help solve these problems has only destructive intentions towards the country, because without these problems being solved, it does cause more damage to the country. It's really that simple. Anyone supporting this Brexit, doesn't matter whether you still believe in the concept, the principle of Brexit, anyone supporting this Brexit right now is supporting the destruction of our economy and our reputation in the world. And anyone arguing for solutions that would solve these problems are arguing for the country to become stronger than it is right now. The former head of the WTO said that Brexit talks were the first negotiations in history where both parties started off with free trade and discussed what barriers to erect. There's a reason no other country has been this stupid before, and none are planning to do so in the future. There's a reason why we weren't stupid enough to do this until we allowed weak political leaders to cheat their way into power. There's a reason why the only leader of an allied nation that was in favour of Brexit was also the only one to recommend injecting bleach into yourself. Boris Johnson thought that he could trigger extra trade from elsewhere by pulling away from the EU. This is not occurring. Shock horror. We're actually losing trade with other countries outside the EU as well. You know, the loss of trade with the EU is most damaging to us because, do you know what? It's the most important market to us. But we're also losing trade in other countries as well as a result of Brexit. Because Brexit didn't just erect trade barriers with the EU, but other countries with whom we had agreements, even if they weren't full trade agreements, we had bilateral agreements. For example, with America, even American trade is down. You know, you might be forgiven for thinking that all the bad things associated with Brexit are in place now, and it will at least get better. Even if you accept that it will never be as good, at least things will improve because Brexit's here now, all the bad is here. We'll improve our systems. It won't get us back to where we were, but it will improve from where we are in January. January will be like ground zero. That's the worst possible thing. But you would be mistaken if you think that the downsides of Brexit are all in place because they're being phased in as well. In July, we're going to have to ramp up checks. If we drastically reduce our standards, which the government are working on right now, we'll also be facing tariffs shortly afterwards. There were some things the EU did to help smooth things out for us. So they've given us a bit of a grace period in certain areas. That will end as well halfway through the year. Things are going to get worse. But there we are. Those are my thoughts. Let me know yours in the comments below. Hope you found the video interesting. If you did, don't forget to click the like button. And if you'd like to support the channel further, please also click the Patreon link for details. And until next time, I'll see you later.